from past 1.5 year, AI has been the new buzzword, the new word trending in town. And the way it has impacted industries, penetrated industry, I think that has been that at the all-time high. And definitely today we have a very diverse set of panelists here today. Uh, First, the kind of industries through which you will hear the perspective. We have person who has worked in healthcare domain very extensively. Then on the retail segment, on the understanding the social behavior of the basically consumers and insights. Then we also have uh, from from the focus on person who's worked cross industries, and then I personally have been working on autonomous vehicle space. And another unique point is considering AI has been a topic that is relatively new in the industry. We have people who have seen the industry, uh, seen the industry in India at a different stages, from 10 years back to 5 years back to 2 years back, how the country has evolved. I think these are very exciting times to be in. From what started initially, we had been doing AI-driven insights. Now we have breakthroughs that actually make AI closer to human intelligence, where it is able to directly impact emotions, perspectives, and the larger narratives. And we have broke the Turing test. It's becoming very, very difficult to differentiate whether you are talking to a human or an AI. That is something one can either be happy about or it's something that one can be concerned about. But one thing is very clear, still there is lot left to be solved in the holy pursuit of what the entire industry wants to achieve. One is definitely the artificial general intelligence, going as close to human intelligence. And second, how more it can impact each and every one of us. I think it's first, I believe there is a very important question that everybody wants to answer with the recent advent of ChatGPT and a lot of applications being built. What is the role of India to be played here? I think there is a very larger narrative that is always coming up. It's very important to understand what is the reality is right now and what it will take India to become a leader in AI race. Is it investments, entrepreneurship, education, silicon, or something else? If we can start with you.
Sure. Thanks, Gagandeep. So I believe that largely there are three levers of drivers, so to say, in India to take India to the next stage that we want. One is, what is the core proprietary built-up that's happening, right? Are we fundamentally creating a technology in itself, or are we developing applications? So that's being one. Second being, if you want to disrupt into that, what are the essential ecosystem plays that's required? One very core aspect is availability of talent. Second is, what is your innovation ecosystem around? As in, whenever you come with a new technology, you require partners to try out that stuff with, and then it has to reach to a certain point of maturity where you can say that this is really got to that point that you can scale outside India. So I believe that these are key contours around which the growth of or the future of AI in India is going to be lying. Yeah.
And I think if on this only one of the three factors that he addressed, we can take about, how has been the talent in India? I think that is always the key question that everybody wants to ask. I think you have been working in this industry for over 10 years. You have seen, 2010 was a place when AI was still nothing more than, a linear regression problem. And now we are talking about big neural nets which are able to replicate human. But how the talent has evolved in India right now, if it would be great to hear that perspective.
See, we have definitely progressed. There's no question about it. But I'll go back to your original question. Are we just, or his point, as in, are we just application developers or are we core product developers? We still don't have an Oracle equivalent from India. Moral of the story, we are still in IT application providers, service providers with very few successful core product development. Maybe because we were late into that segment. Fortunately, AI has been relatively newer, and India has been lucky enough to have jumped into this bandwagon. We are doing a lot of core product development in India. Yes, we are. I would say there are many still sort of feeding off the Western GitHubs of the world, but there is a lot of core product development happening, and both of my colleagues are examples, or in fact you yourself are an example of that, wherein maybe you all started with the application, but then you all have gone ahead and done that core product work which has been required. So that has definitely been a progression, and I really hope that India will be the product drivers in the world going ahead.
I think this brings a very important question, Ajit. We were talking about this even while we were conversing before the panel, and this was a question that was also raised when Sam Altman visited India. There was a clip that got very viral, and the same thing that you answered. Every adoption starts at when you are first getting the right talent to build. Using all things existing out there, building solutions for somebody. Then you transcend into products. And then slowly building the strong foundations. I think that is two places where it would be important to touch the point on. There is a lot of right now foundational research that is still taken from the West, while we are building application layers on top of this. Whether one is talking about LLMs, the core chat GPT models, or you're talking about core concepts like zero-shot learning and GANs. But even before talking about that, the question that he addressed was, that he asked was, what does it, we still do not have products. If you want to talk about what are the AI products that are coming in India right now, which are giving a global outlook, Anthropic has been one of the players there, and Deep Tech has been one of the players there. What needs to be changed to flip that table? Why core products are missing?
Right. Yeah, so thanks, Gagandeep. No, I think I feel more optimistic about the potential of India making a big impact in the AI economy. I agree that the core fundamental technologies are still not getting developed in India, actually. But AI is a very large opportunity, actually. I think the core fundamental technologies maybe will not get developed in India. We don't have the ecosystem for that, maybe. But I think beyond those core platforms, we will have other tools and technologies which will assist developers. And more importantly, the applications, actually, the third layer, the application layer.
Right.
And I think AI is going to come in a huge way across all verticals, all industries, actually. And there will be a huge requirement for developing various kinds of applications, actually. I coming from the healthcare space, which is a very conservative space, I see a huge opportunity to bring in AI and transform healthcare workflows, improve patient outcome, reduce cost. And I think I see that India is in a very nicely poised to capture, if I may say so, the global leadership in this space. It's a very ambitious statement, but the reason for that, I feel, is data, actually, data. For example, I'm in the healthcare space, and we have a humongous repository of medical imaging data, not only big, but rich medical imaging data, which otherwise to gather in any other economy is extremely expensive, super expensive.
Right.
And as you all know, at the core of any good AI solution is data, actually. So I think the key for India is to be able to continue to maintain this unique advantage, to be able to create an ecosystem where startups are able to access good, big, rich data in a very, very cost-effective way. I think India, courtesy our IT service industry for so many years, is already the talent pool of the world, actually. And talent and data, I think, could do the magic for India, is my emotion, my feel, actually.
Along these lines, if you all were today had to say, considering lot of technologies, use cases have matured, a lot of products that you had been building right now are at a stage where user is getting impacted, user is getting obviously adopting it very aggressively. what do you think right now is the next big thing? Right now, everybody is going gaga over chat GPT and LMs. You know, have cracked the conversational AI, let's say. But honestly, considering everybody of you is from the AI fraternity, there are a lot of problems that are still yet to be solved across all, whether it's core research or it's even the industries which are yet to be penetrated. Where do you see the next big thing, you know, that the next generation entrepreneurs that are right now building today, the kind of problems that they should be focused on where the next 10 years of AI are going to be built? You know, if we can have that, considering you have seen the industry from all different perspectives. Ranjan, if you can.
Yeah, sure. So if you look at the whole hype cycle of AI, right, where it has started from computing ability to computer vision, data, and at some point in time it was prescriptive, then it became predictive. So it has crossed through a substantial amount of journey. I believe that there are two ends to how we should approach this problem. One is more than what AI can be or what's the landscape of AI next 10 years is, likely the more important question is, what are the top 10 problems to solve in next 10 years? AI is an enabler to an outcome.
Right.
So what are those problems which are high impact problems to be solved for? And how AI in the scheme of things sort of fits in to make it high quality, more productive and all that sort of stuff, right? So I in that sense feel that looking at problem areas which are big and high impact is the right way to look at than AI. Within AI as such, if you look at the whole hype cycle of where various kind of things are, I think, I remember precisely, we were in Gartner about 4 years back, and we're looking at this hype cycle where we work in the space of emotion AI, and we were looking at where does the human AI or a general AI sort of fits into that scheme of things. I think core research-wise, everything is heading towards that.
Right.
General AI is what everyone is trying to aspire for. We are beyond the hypes of GPT and LLMs and all the models that exist. I can very honestly confess that we are very far from there. Like anyone is very far from there. There's a lot of length to travel in terms
Right.
of what that human linguistic model is going to look like. But I think these are steps towards general AI, and that's where we are headed.
I think that is where even I have a very interesting insight to make, considering if we remove the hype, all the things that currently AI has been working, you know, it's still a brute force learning method, right? The more data you feed, the bigger the model is, the better traditionally the model and all gets. AI cannot reason, and that is where, if you see how industry has been heading, anywhere where you are not risking life and death decision making to AI, it's working very well. But wherever life and death decision making comes, particular instances, autonomous driving, there it becomes very tricky because, you know, it's impossible to count for every possible variation that can ever happen out there, you know. There are not 10 instances or 20 instances that are out there, you know. The world can be anything. One like particular instance with the autonomous vehicle is the reason why machines are still not able to drive vehicles, and that is just a child's play for human, is how we understand the social cues, understanding the social behavior, and correlating what we are going to do next. If you are driving on the road, you are able to know that, okay, if there is a dog on the pavement, it might come on the road, and you are able to make that decision much more quicker. I think that is where those correlations, that predictableness of how things behave, is a very crucial part to achieve that next phase where, you know, you can really, if something is not quantifiable, you know, it's not degree of accuracy, at least you have more quantifiable data to assess that, okay, why it is doing in this way or that way. Particularly on this side, since, you know, you have worked on like cross industries, what is right now the biggest pain point that industry is facing, you know, which I think somebody has to build a solution today?
Okay. AI is still a concept in most minds and the industry. I'm not talking about these IT guys or the AI guys. I'm talking about the general industry.
Right.
They have a problem statement and they've heard AI solves things. Uh, they think the AI is as good as how the human intelligence works. So let me just step back first. I don't know where I heard this or the fact behind it. Einstein supposedly used 4% of his brain is what they say.
Right.
I don't know how true that is. I would say artificial intelligence is like hardly even 1% of what the human intelligence is doing right now.
Right.
All four of us over here are into visual AI.
Agreed.
There are 5 human senses which correlate together in the brain and then takes decisions. We are at nascent stage of using just the visual information, visual data, and then deriving the intelligence to take a decision.
Right.
So the industry comes back to me saying that, I have this problem. Can you recognize this for me? I, depending on the use case, of course, I'll say yes or maybe get me more data. So usually it boils down to getting more data. So when you have a very specific industry you've already decided on, you have gone ahead and built that data set, which you said it's luckily India being large population, you have a good data set. But when I'm getting a client, say somewhere in Thailand, says, I want to capture underage prostitution, a very unique, it was a case of a social service organization wanting help of AI to kind of prevent that. Then it boiled down to, can you get me faces? Can you get me data? So that has been a big challenge. I mean, I give you a very unique scenario. Even if I say car parts, they want to recognize defects in a particular supply of material. So again, boils down to, can you give me enough defective parts, which they may or may not have captured in the previous. So then they will have to start the process. Okay, every time you get a defective part, please mark that defect, explain the defect, and then I will train my, sort of customize my models and train my models to be able to do that. So challenge for us has been data. So kind of contradicting what Ajit says, that when you know a use case and you've been working on the use case for a long time, yes, you start building up the data. When it's a new use case coming in from an industry, that's been a challenge for us to capture that data.
So I think it is a good point to put out, how we can work on building more of, let's say, that foundational intelligence that is, across the modalities of information, whether it's sensory information, whether it's basically facial, let's say, vision information or
I'll
audio
just
information.
add to that. So for example, we do a lot of work for lots of airports. So maybe the initial use case was, can you recognize guns, or can you recognize a bag lying around, if it could be a bomb, etc. So we started with specific data sets. Right. Then over the years, we realized now then the airports themselves came back saying that since you got this, can you catch this too, which we could. As long as we got enough data. So what we have gone ahead and done is now when I get data or I get video feeds or snapshots, I try and learn as much about that whole scene and not restrict my learning to any one particular object. So that sort of takes up on what you were saying.
How can you understand the context and adapt your knowledge across use cases? But I think that is a very interesting point that even I have come across whenever we have these debates on AI. Does the person or an organization or an institution, Ajit, if you can talk about this, does a person who has access to all data, is that going to win the game? Or it's the other way around? Do you have really that, let's say the technology has that capability to correlate information beyond that limited spectrum of data that you might have?
Yeah, no, I think I want to say here that ChatGPT 4 has 4,000 lines of code only. In the sense that developing an AI solution is not very tech intensive. Developing a good AI solution is very data intensive, actually. And Googles of the world, Microsoft of the world have a lot of rich and good and diverse data. Of course, we cannot underestimate the importance of good developers. Actually, obviously, we would certainly need the top-of-notch IT engineers who understand data science and really work on the technology to build it. Also, the technology is really getting abstract so much now, actually. I think as a young engineer, I worked only for 1.5, 2 years, coded for 1.5. I would have written several thousand lines of code myself, actually. But now I think you don't need to write those many lines of code. If you have the right understanding of the technology, what is offered there, and have access to good data, I think you can really build good technologies and not undermining the importance of having good data scientists and engineers there, actually.
I think now, in recent years, like the hype around AI has been at all-time high. The way AI has penetrated every industry, that was not, 2 years back, if you had met us, that hadn't been the case. But I'll take that with a pinch of salt, because right now, every company, every new organization is an AI company, or wants to become an AI company, or markets itself as an AI company. It's a new trend. If you have an AI tag, that opens up plethora of opportunities as part of the larger narrative. Ranjan, does that really redefine the new consumer in India? Like, how has the consumer evolved? What does that change about the market that is for AI right now? Considering this perspective, you build a SaaS tool for AI. 2 years back, it would have been very difficult to convince an Indian business or Indian consumer, why they should pay that price for having, let's say, AI-driven insights or something like that. But how does that change, considering you started at that time, your core market has been not in India, a lot of market has been outside. That has been the case with, all of you. How that has changed? Who is the new consumer? Let's say call it consumer 2.0.
Yeah, so I think not because of AI, but essentially what has happened is this country has evolved from being just consumer, the brands and the customers have potentially evolved from being consumers of solutions and products and services to become a lot more innovators. So I'll give you some class example. I started this company Entropic in 2016 with something called as a multimodal emotion AI, trying to understand consumer insight using face expression, eye tracking, all that stuff. Now, for us to troubleshoot and get the pilots done early days in US and Europe and Southeast Asia was immensely difficult. And the amount of love so much we got from brands in India was amazing because they were very keen to open to try. They never had a solution, and if you come with a solution and they say that, hey, here's a cutting edge tool which has got a promise to solve for, I think the interest has been immense. So I think the stage one was just being an end consumer of, like back in 2012, 13, when I was running my first company, they were just consumer of services and products, but I think they evolved to become innovators. And here comes a time where they want to take the lead. If you go to a MNC which is US headquarter, the India innovation offices are actually trying to break the boundaries and say that, hey, I want to be champion of this particular technology across the globe. And that's been very welcomed. So I think that trait and fundamental behavior shift is there, that the consumer is a lot more adaptive to new solution, new tech. By the time it solves it, yes, they are very demanding. Yes, ROI and all that thing is super tight in this country. We are by default, like we are savings account people, right? So we like it that way. So I think we want to try out new solutions, but we want to be at the merit of ki, matlab, I'm giving you money, give me the value for it, right? So it's a tight market that way. But I think it's evolved, and it's a very different kind of generation of people who are ready to take charge with new solutions as such. That's my take. I'm very optimistic.
So honestly, I think that it's a fair to say that, right now the larger India, or we call it Bharat per se, that is the narrative that we're putting on. There is an India and there is a Bharat. Is it now more open to new ideas, or adoption of, let's say, having a technological advent to anything?
I'll split Bharat into three parts. There is the common man, there is the corporate world, and there's the government world. Common man, as he said, wants value for money. He's going to pay for a service for the same amount as long as you can give him better results. So it boils down to the government and the corporate to give the better results using whatever tools. Automation was a tool 20 years back, 30 years back. AI is a tool which the corporates and the government has recognized. So if you ask me how India has progressed, at least the service providers or the product providers have recognized that AI is definitely a tool which will help them churn out better service to the end customer. And in that sense, almost, as you said, every other company wants to say or is saying that, we are using some form of AI in our delivery to the customer. And that has been, I think, a good driver. How far, okay, sorry, let me just divert. And I actually have been seeing a lot of take from the government sectors as well. So, whether you, and I've been talking to railways, we're talking to different, defense, obviously, it's more of a need rather than a luxury. And then even service providers, even document scanning, your property, your estate documents getting scanned and, being using OCR to understand the location and pin code, etc. So it's definitely happening, it's moving. Bharat is moving, and maybe putting it positively, the demanding consumer is pushing the companies to do that.
No, I think with that, we come to the last question that always take as our mind that Ajit, you might be very well positioned to answer. The impact of AI right on industries is on all-time high, and there is a very thin line between a good outcome and a negative outcome. It has been leading to a lot of privacy and misuse concerns. Whether you talk about generative AI, deep fakes, and a lot of countries have been very proactive. But on the other hand, we also know that it's still an unsolved problem. Do you think it's the right time to regulate AI in the first place? Like, since there are concerns that if you regulate at this stage, it will hamper the future innovation that is going to be there. And since you are from a healthcare sector where misuse translates into very big impact, what would you say about that?
Yeah, no, I think it's a difficult question in the sense that, and also a lot of debate happening on this point across the industry. Stalwarts are jumping in and trying to predict what AI is going to do to the humanity as a whole. And I do feel in the long run, AI can create existential challenge for human race. I do believe that AI is extremely powerful, and today AI is already intelligent, more intelligent than humans in certain cases, and there could be a point where AI becomes autonomous on itself, actually, and that could be a very tipping point. To be able to hold that situation, I think, is going to be very difficult. All the countries, all the companies have to come together and abide by an ethics of AI, which kind of go against the principle of capitalism.
Right.
And I don't think it will happen easily. It will be an extremely catastrophic situation when certain things like this could emerge, actually. But I think that's for the future, I think. And what we can do now is really what we call is bring in the responsible AI as an important fabric of your AI, actually. And if we can enable that regulation in some way or the other, and let me give an example. What is responsible AI? Responsible AI is something which will help you build trust on AI, actually. Is this trustworthy enough or not? Is the AI output accurate? Is it having any bias? Is it having any appropriate fairness in it or not? And if you're able to build that trust with AI, I think a lot of things can be achieved. I just wanted to extend a bit on this. We have been lucky to work with some of the developed economies and really understand how they are trying to bring responsible AI into their workflows. So for example, our platform is a national radiology AI platform in Singapore now. And they have brought in responsible AI into the platform, which helps the user understand on a daily basis if AI is accurate or not accurate. Does it have any bias for ethnicity, age group, gender, or any machine setting? And in that sense, really get a feel of, hey, can I trust on this AI or not, actually? And that's really transformative, because when that thing came in, we realized that, oh, we really can understand whether AI can be trusted or not, actually. And once that is established, the need for regulation also goes away, actually.
Right.
Because then, like in the medical industry, if you want to regulate a product, you have to do the FDAs and this and that. They're very expensive exercises. For a startup to do a US FDA is like very expensive and long time-consuming process. Whereas I can get my product to Singapore because they have the responsible AI fabric into their platform, and my product then can be utilized from day one. If it is delivering accuracy, it could get adopted actually. So I think, how do we really bring in responsible AI into the AI fabric across all applications is something I feel is important, and we need to bring that in, I think, in some way or the other.
Very well said, Ajit. I think that brings us to the conclusion of this panel. Definitely, AI has been such a vast topic. The way it has been impacting, it's very tricky, or maybe it doesn't do justice to fit the entire narrative in, let's say, certain number of, let's say, minutes or, right? So, but one thing is very clear that right now it's very exciting times to be in. You know, the way technology has been progressing, I think that hasn't been seen 5 years back or 10 years back. We are making tech fun again, and there is a huge growth potential. You know, India might have missed a semiconductor boom long years back. Right now, there is a new chance that we can leverage on becoming an AI superpower. I think we have that talent. A lot of research that has happened outside that has been through Indian brains. We have been having good startup ecosystem. I think it's right now the question is, do we want to capitalize this or not? I think that is where it's something not 1, 2, or 3 startups or stakeholders do. It's a point where the entire ecosystem come together, whoever either is a supporting function in that. I think, and that is where AI will play a very major part in leading India to be a $5 trillion economy.